Are you a fearful avoidant attachment style and find that your life is in constant chaos? Maybe you find that year after year, you have these really courageous or crazy or outrageous experiences where it's like these really intense events happen to you over and over and over again. If this sounds like you, there are four really important reasons as to why this might be happening. And it's actually really powerful to recognize some of the root causes for why your life may be in chaos all the time. And we'll also talk about in this video what you can specifically do. So, fearful avoidance as an overarching theme, because they grow up in childhood having to be in, fight or flight mode all the time, really hypervigilant, walking on eggshells, because generally fearful avoidance have quite a chaotic childhood, they develop a subconscious comfort zone around chaos, meaning that you feel comfortable in situations that are chaotic because it's what you know. And your subconscious mind literally works to keep reinforcing this comfort zone over and over again. It doesn't really care about if things are uncomfortable for you or painful. It cares like, hey, we survived this whole time being in chaos. So chaos works for us. Chaos means familiarity and safety and thus survival. So we're going to keep recreating this experience. But there's actually four underlying reasons here that all relate to this one big overarching theme as to why this is happening. And reason number one is that you're often in sympathetic nervous system mode. And really, it's sort of like reason number one, A, B, C, D. But try to take a look at this for a second with me and see if you notice this. When you are in sympathetic nervous system mode, we often hear this called fight or flight mode. And when you unpack this, if you spend a lot of time in sympathetic nervous system mode throughout the day, like way more time than we're supposed to be in that mode or state of being, one of the big things that you'll see is you have more of a fight response, a magnified fight response. And this usually comes because you didn't feel protected growing up. So you had to overprotect yourself to feel a sense of safety. Now, this magnified fight response will end up putting you in situations where maybe there's more drama than there needs to be. Maybe a small thing happens, you have a really strong reaction. Now there's a big argument. Now a relationship of yours may be in chaos. And now you have to go repair that argument. Maybe you feel guilty about how you defended yourself so strongly, or maybe attacked back because you felt attacked, or just had this like overarching or overly magnified response to something that objectively from a conscious state of mind might not have been a big thing, but for you, because there's big core wounds there, it touched these big core wounds. Maybe you felt betrayed or not good enough or unworthy or trapped. And so you really fought back in a situation to try to keep yourself safe, to try to feel like everything was going to be okay. The more we are in sympathetic nervous system mode, the more of a heightened fight response you'll have. The more of a heightened fight response you have, the more dramatic situations are going to happen interpersonally, most likely in your life. I can remember even working with a client who said that she had such bad road rage that she got out of her car and actually got into a fight with somebody on the side of a road. And it was like this very kind, sweet individual, but just this really magnified fight response, got into a physical altercation with somebody over them cutting her off. And you see these dynamics and how they tend to unfold. So that's reason number one. Reason number two, sympathetic nervous system. Guess what else you often have? Fight, flight, a really strong flight response. Fearful avoidance end up a lot of time in chaotic situations. And I want to be really clear about something, by the way. Like, I'm not saying that if you're a fearful avoidant and you're in chaotic situations that it's all your fault. I'm definitely not saying that. But I am saying that these dynamics that we'll see here from 1 to 4 are more likely to create more of this than needed in your life, right? So if you already have challenging things happening, difficult situations in front of you, and you combine that with these really strong responses to things, you're going to see that it feels like you can't get off the merry-go-round of just chaos or you can't get off the roller coaster, so to speak. So a really strong flight response, how this tends to manifest for fearful avoidant attachment styles is that they can sometimes lack staying power. They'll hold things in, not speak up, not speak about their needs, whether it's in a romantic relationship, friendship, in the workplace, with family, until they really reach this tipping point. And then they're like, I've had enough. And then they flee. And, sometimes we need to leave toxic situations that are not working for us. But the vast majority of the time, what I see with people in relationship dynamics, even workplace relationship dynamics, is that if we communicate our needs, if we establish our boundaries, if we use our voice in a healthy way, a lot of situations are actually quite easily resolved. But fearful avoidants sometimes lose the opportunity to properly resolve these situations because they just hold things in and then they flee. And this can look like for fearful avoidance, being in a job you love, being there for a year, and then being really frustrated because you held all these things in and leaving and having to restart your career, or being in a relationship that you thought was going to be a really important one to you, and then leaving because you just felt like you didn't want to keep investing in it because your needs weren't being met, but yet you didn't communicate. And a lot of things would be different if your women learned how to communicate and develop more of the staying power than rather than just fleeing when you feel like there's been enough of a buildup of unresolved things. So, and to be clear, I would really advise to always try to resolve them from a communication standpoint first, unless, of course, it's like an abusive situation or something like that. But if it's just a challenge, a problem, an unmet need, feeling frustrated, like resolve through communication first, see your needs through, keep trying to communicate. And if things don't then resolve within a deadlined period of time that you've established for how long you're willing to sort of see your needs through and do the work, that's when you know it's time to actually leave rather than feeling like it's from a space of a reactive response rather than you trying first, you intending certain things, and then realizing, hey, it's just not a fit anymore. So flight mode, chaos. Flight mode can also create long-term or long-standing chaos. What else do we know about sympathetic nervous system? By the way, before I tell you the other two points of chaos for fearful avoidance, if you want to do a really deep dive into this work, there's literally a 45-minute course that will give you everything you need to know about how to deal with your emotions and how to regulate your nervous system so you don't have to keep dealing with these things. And it will actually impact like burnout, the likelihood of being burnt out, your ability to manage your triggers when you're really, really triggered. So you don't have to say things you don't mean or move from a fight or flight response too strongly. 45 minutes, everything you need for nervous system regulation and somatic work in terms of processing and witnessing your emotions and managing those like really intense responses in a really healthy way with a few simple tools. If you want to check that out for free for 14 days for Mental Health Month, you have access to it using the link below. That link will also give you access to all of PDS for 14 days for free so that you can do a deep dive and you can check out any course you want. You can join me in a webinar 3 days a week. We also have webinars the other 3 days of a week. We have 6 out of 7 days of the week with live webinars for your support. So if you have questions, you want to chat, meet other like-minded people in the community, all of that's available to you using the link down below for 14 days for free, just for Mental Health Month for May. So we have the chaos following the fearful avoidance. We've got the fight mode, the flight mode. We also have freeze mode. A lot of chronic experiences with trauma that lead to a lot of sympathetic nervous system mode and dysregulation can lead to freeze mode, where the moment you feel overwhelmed by something, you just freeze, you just avoid, you shut down. And wherever we have a lot of freeze mode active in our lives, there's a buildup of undealt with things in the background. Let's just look at the example of paying your bills. Maybe you're like, I feel overwhelmed. I don't want to pay my bills. I don't want to look at them or deal with it. That's going to end up causing more harm long-term, causing more stress and chaos long-term because of that avoidance. But at its root, you're in that avoidance mode because you're too often in sympathetic nervous system mode. You've learned to be in fight or flight to survive. And the same mode of being is following you around everywhere, also wreaking havoc, causing more chaos. So we've got fight mode, flight mode, freeze mode, fawn mode, people pleasing mode is what fawn means, like FAWN. And fawn mode will cause you to be in situations where you are people pleasing, not having boundaries, and then eventually burning yourself thin, right? Like running yourself into the ground or burning the candle at both ends, or finding yourself in situations where you feel frustrated, resentful, you feel like your boundaries are violated. And that will cause you to have more chaos, right? If you don't feel like you can say your true yeses and nos or have healthy boundaries, or you keep feeling like you have to people please, you'll keep self-abandoning to the point of exhaustion that is just a ticking time bomb for more chaos in life. So hopefully this makes a whole lot of sense. These are the 4 root reasons that fearful avoidants tend to keep finding themselves in chaos. Of course, we can have chaotic situations not related to these things, like just challenges in a family member falling sick or whatever it might be. But There's these other deep rooted reasons for why this can happen. And if we already have some chaos, we definitely don't need more of it. So, nervous system regulation is a massive skill for FAs. It's a huge part of your healing. And again, you can check that out for 14 days for free. It's a 45-minute course. You'll be able to get all the tools you need from that. So, I hope this makes sense. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. And I will see you in future videos.